Antetokounmpo, yeah, he's not one of us.
He's not one of you.
No, because he's a Hammite.
Who's considered black to you?
Those of us over here. Black is not a...
Shaquille O'Neal considered black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't like him?
No, yeah, I like. He's not African. Shaquille O'Neal, one of us. But we don't like Africans, and Africans don't like us. Africans sold us. How can I like the people that sold us?
They did.
Yeah. You know, a white man never came in the tribes and catch nobody.
No.
The Africans, well, it wasn't black. It was Africans that caught us.
So, okay, so the ones that have been enslaved and sent here, they are the blacks.
Right.
And then the ones in Africa are the Africans.
You are one of the smartest Moroccans I've met because you can understand, because most people look at it like Africans gathered up Africans, but it's tribal wars. So we was a different tribe than them. So when the Europeans looked for slaves, they caught us. Antetokounmpo, yeah, he's not one of us.
He's not one of you.
No, because he's a Hamite.
Who's considered black?
This nigga, bro. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all the praise, honor, and the glory to Yahweh Bashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Chahakodash. Double honors to my apostles, the elders, the teachers, and the bishops of Great Millstone. Peace, love, mercy, and salutations to all you sincere brothers, and shalom to you few sisters. All right, as I was just, getting ready to go to bed, man, I came across this, and you have Captain Tazaryach here, of the, ISUPK, talking about, Giannis, who formerly played for the Milwaukee Bucks. All right. Their franchise player. All right. You name it, won them a championship. All right. And so on and so forth. Talking about, he's not a Jake. He's not an Israelite. All right. Which is completely going off, man. Okay. Because, he's just basically going off of the outward appearance, and he's not reading the spirit. That's not someone who's spiritual. All right. Because you can clearly see that, Giannis is a Jake. Ultimately, he's from Greece, but, formerly, all right, families from Nigeria, which a lot of the Nigerians, all right, are Israelites, all right. You got a lot of Israelites in western part of Africa, in Ghana, Senegal, Morocco, all right. You got Jake all over that region, man. Okay. Guinea, all right. You name it. And even, South Africa, all right. Even, the eastern part of Africa as well, but majority of the Israelites in Africa, all right, are, western part of Africa, man. Okay. You see, because when you go back into our history and, the scattering of our people, Jake fled all over Africa, and Europe, Asia, and so on and so forth, man. Okay. But you got this, individual here who, claims to be, a teacher, all right, someone who's knowledgeable in the scriptures, but you're still, unable to be able to, identify, all right, who's an Israelite and who isn't. Okay. And it's not difficult, especially, when you come across people like Giannis, Luka Doncic, for example, who else? The Joker, Nikola Jokic, who plays for the Denver Nuggets. These are all Israelites. Okay, they don't look, all right, like your typical Israelites, okay? But you can't go based off of the outward appearance, man. Okay? Jake is scattered. All right? For example, and we use this a lot. When you look at Blake Griffin, all right, many years back there was a commercial, which is spiritual. There was a commercial that Blake Griffin, was part of, and his name was Cornelius. Look at that, man. Okay. That's, right? Blake Griffin. When you look at his father, his father is, so-called, all right, so-called, I say, but a dark complexion. Okay. A Haitian, all right, which are from the tribe of Levi. All right. Blake Griffin himself, he's not as dark as his father. And I believe he got with the so-called white woman, Blake Griffin, that is. All right. And his children, okay, look like you so-called white people. Okay. But we don't go based off of the outward appearance. We go based off of the spirit, but we go based off of the flesh. Who your father is. Okay. You see, your line, all right, who you are, all right, you go back, all right, your gene, the sperma, all right. You see, goes back to your fathers, not your mother, but your fathers, because the father, carries a nationality. All right. The scriptures tell you that in the book of Numbers. All right. The 18th chapter, I believe. All right. Salakia, Numbers chapter 1, verse 18, not the 18th chapter, but the first chapter and the 18th verse. And it reads, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls, man. Okay. So your nationality, your pedigree, all right, you see, goes back to who your fathers are, man. Okay. And so at the end of the day, man, you're going to have a lot of our people, okay, that may not look, okay, you see, that may not have, melanin or, whatnot, you name it, all right. Jake is scattered. The scriptures, say that, my heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. When you look up a speckled bird, that's a bird of many colors. Okay. And again, you can't go based off of the outward appearance, but the Lord judges, the inward man. Okay. You see, you got to try the spirit by the spirit, as the scriptures say. And then when you read, I read the book of Baruch. Okay. I was reading this the other night, the 4th chapter, the 36th verse. It says this, O Jerusalem, look about thee toward the east, and behold the joy that cometh unto thee from the Lord Yahweh Shemashai. Lo, thy sons come, whom thou sentest away. Okay, when did that happen? That happened during the scattering. Okay, you see, that happened during the curses, and we are still, under the curses, man. Okay, you see, the curse was that we were going to be scattered amongst these nations. So a lot of our people were, taking on the customs of these nations. For example, and this topic is going about, talking about Giannis, who is known as the Greek freak. Okay. He's known as a Greek freak, man. And that was actually when our people were, became Greeks, when our people were, Hellenized, man. Okay. During, the Greek captivity. Okay. When our people were under, the Grecians. When you read, in the book of the first, okay, and second Maccabees, man. Okay. In the Apocrypha, it tells you that that's when our people became Gentiles. Okay. You see? But anyways, it says, lo, thy sons come, whom thou sentest away. They come gathered together from the east to the west by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Lord Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, man. Okay, so our people are scattered. You have a lot of our people in Africa, man. Okay, I don't understand how that is, difficult, all right, to comprehend. Okay, not every single Israelite was put on that boat and brought over to the Americas. A lot of our people were still left back there. Okay, we blended in with the so-called Africans, man, because of our, because of our complexion. Okay, you see, so not every single Israelite, okay, not every single Israelite was brought over to the Americas, man. A lot of our people are still there. Okay. Again, especially in the western part of Africa, a lot of our people are still keeping the customs, okay, of the scriptures, okay, circumcising, their children and so on and so forth, man, keeping the laws, even though, they may not know, all right, that, because a lot of it, is based off of what they know as is now is, their culture, okay, but, that culture, actually goes back to the law, such as the commandments, man. Okay. You see, that goes back to the scriptures. All right. You see, so, and this also goes to show you again, these, ISUPK, many years back, there was a young Jake who was from Ghana, and he asked, if he could come to the cookout or something, and they said, no, you're a Hammite. Come on, man. Okay. There's a difference between Ham and Israel. Okay. There is a huge difference. All right, let me show you, what the original, Hamites look like. You see this picture right here? These are Hamites. These are probably people from Kenya. All right, you see that? Salakia. Let me fix this. This right here. When you're looking at these images, okay. But then when you Salakia, I'm not sure why I can't click on that. Give me 1 sec. All right, there I got it. So when you look at this image right here, all right, these are probably, I'm a Kenyans. Okay, these are, Hamitic nations. All right, this right here as well, probably, I'm a Sudanese. Okay, you see, look at this. You see, these are heathens right here. But then when you look at this right here, this is Jake. Okay, even though they're in the land of Africa, they're not the same people as the first images that I saw. That I just showed. All right, these are Israelites right here. Most likely, Nigeria, Ghana, the western part of Africa. You can clearly see, the difference. Okay, you can see the difference between what I just showed you. Look at these women, for example. Okay, between that and this. Okay, there's a huge difference. Okay, and the scriptures even tell you that the Lord doeth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Okay, you see, like this right here. And I'm sure you've seen, videos of, Chaba, these, Hamitic, a group of people that are, somewhere in Tanzania, eating monkeys and shit, man. Okay, you see, there's different. Now let's look at this. Okay, Ghana. Okay, the culture is different. The dressing is different. Look at this. Look at the woman here, man. Fine as hell. All right. You see? Totally different. Right? So, again, Africa is a big continent, man. You got a lot of people, that live there, but not every single person that is in Africa is, from the, nation of Ham. All right. You have a lot of Israelites, all right, who are Shemitic, all right, that are in Africa, man. Okay. So again, man, this dude right here, let's listen to that one more time.
Yeah, he not one of Antetokounmpo. Yeah, he not one of us.
He's not one of you.
No, because he's a Hammite.
Who's considered black to you?
Those of us over here. Black is not a.
Shaquille O'Neal considered black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't like him?
No. Yeah, I like. He's not African. Shaquille O'Neal, one of us. But we don't like Africans, and Africans don't like us. Africans sold us. How can I like the people that sold us?
They did.
Yeah. White man never came in the tribes and catch nobody.
No.
The Africans. Well, it wasn't black. It was Africans that caught us.
So the ones that have been enslaved and sent here, they are the blacks.
Right.
And then the ones in Africa are the Africans.
You are one of the smartest Moroccans I've met because you can understand, because most people look at it like Africans gathered up Africans, but it's tribal wars. So we was a different tribe than them. So when the Europeans looked for slaves, they caught us.
And yeah, this is crazy because when you look at this, for example, let's type it. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay. When you watch this dude play, man, yo, he's on a whole new level, man. Okay, versus, for example, Manute Ball. This is a true Hamite right here, man. Okay, I don't know how tall this nigga was. 7 feet tall. 7'7". Couldn't do shit on the basketball court. All right. You see, this is Ham right here, whose son is I'm a ball. This is the son of ball. All right, who's not, who who is apparently supposed to be good, but hey man, you can't keep up with Jake. Now he's somewhere in the Philippines, playing ball. All right, he made it to the league, but couldn't last. No longer in the league. This is the son of Manubal right here, man. Okay, this is Ham. Totally different than Giannis. Totally different than Giannis. All right, so I just wanted to bring that out, Lord Yahweh Shemosha, willing it was edifying the time shalom. Yahweh Shemosha Barakatah.